What are my thoughts on what has actually been proposed? To be very honest, I've been really, really impressed by what the president, I can't believe I'm saying I'm being impressed right now, and that's something George W. Bush is doing. But I've been impressed by what Bush and the leaders of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, have been proposing. For one, it seems like they're really getting rid of their partisan arguments. Usually, anytime there's been an economic crisis or something, Bush argues for throwing a tax cut in that way. And he's actually taken off the table that he wants to make the 2001 tax cut permanent in order to agree with Democrats. And in Congress, Democrats and Republicans have kind of agreed. And Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic leader, has told the Democrats not to throw in their pork barrel projects, to spend too much money on stupid little things like that. And John Bonnier, I think that's how I pronounce his name. It looks like Bonnier. Makes me laugh every time. He has told people in the Republicans in the U.S. House to not just reject and critique the Democrats' proposals on partisan grounds of Democrats understanding. So it looks like the idea behind getting a tax cut and tax rebate and more government spending, I think around $150 billion, might do some good work. I'm really excited to see it happen. And for our taxpayers, it means up to $800 for individual credits and $1,600 for family credits. So there's a lot of money coming in your pocketbook if this passes. So that's kind of awesome. And I think that it could be promising in terms of helping the economy. The second option is lowering interest rates. And for those of you that follow the news today, the Federal Reserve has the power to do that, which is kind of an unelected body, but appointed by the president, but because of connection federal. They're appointed by the president, approved by Congress, but have a lot of independence because they can't be fired off until their term is up and then somebody gets to be appointed. After global stocks plunged around 5 to 10% around the world yesterday, including Asia and Europe, the Federal Reserve, one advantage of the Federal Reserve is that it can take immediate action, and it did by announcing a 0.75% rate cut, which is huge for those of you that have loans, and they're at variable rates. Is that interest rates on your loans, like houses and cars, and even student loans, if they're not fixed, are going to drop significantly. So that kind of sounds like good news. However, I think that what the Federal Reserve is doing right now is really, really wrong. I don't think that they should be cutting interest rates in terms of fixing the economic problem. Why is that? One of the problems that got us into this economic crisis was with the mortgage crisis and banks giving out very bad loans because they had too much money to give out. Well, by lowering interest rates, what it's going to do is encourage banks again to try to give out more and more loans because people are going to try to search out for the loans. It might help in terms of mortgages defaulting, but it'll also encourage, I think, banks to give more bad loans. So I think that this should only be implemented if it comes with regulations on the banking industry itself, in terms of regulating who they can give loans to. The other reason why I also think this is worse is that it really weakens the power of the U.S. dollar. And why does it do that? Well, think about the fact that interest rates in the United States are at a certain level. And interest rates don't only affect people that take loans, but they also affect people who make investments in the United States. And so, if interest rates go down in the United States, what does that mean for foreign investors? Investment in the United States becomes a much less attractive option. Why? Because there's a much lower return on people's investments. Well, what does that lead to? It means that fewer people are going to want to make investments in the United States economy, and when it comes to the power of the dollar, it's further going to weaken the exchange rate with the U.S. dollar, which actually I think is our most pressing economic problem right now. The good thing about having a weak dollar is that it makes our products really, really cheap for people to buy. So it helps people in manufacturing industries to sell goods to the world. However, I think it also encourages inefficiencies because we don't need to be as efficient in how we make stuff because we can be helped by our exchange rate, and the entire international economy is using the U.S. dollar. And as the power of the dollar gets weaker and weaker, fewer and fewer organizations are going to rely on. There's already been a big shift from using the euro as more of an international currency. And I think that over time this is really, really dangerous to the economy, especially because we have so much money in foreign debt. If organizations that control our debt switch to not using the dollar, as the U.S. interest rate, or as the exchange rate goes down, it's going to increase our debt overall. So I think that the Fed should be watching that, and I think all this is just going to fuel into even more inflation in the long term, because once the dollar is weakened, the price of oil goes up even more, and the price of imported food also goes up. So we might approach something like what we saw in the 1970s, where we saw high inflation and high unemployment. So what do I think should happen? I think we should go with Congress' proposal, spend $150 to $200 billion on a combination of tax cuts, focus on people that would spend them, and also spend the money and send it all to the lower cost of living. And I think the Federal Reserve should stop cutting interest rates, even though it's going to make loans more expensive.